Broadcasting live from Dar es Salaam, this is TBC News, our top stories. Russia writes off $23 billion of African nations' debt. USAID commits to strengthen energy systems in Africa.
We've added, through 147 private sector transactions, we've added over 14,000 gigawatts of power to the national grid.
Well, good evening. I am Nasa Kingo. Just a reminder, you can also follow us live via our YouTube channel, TBConline, and also get all the latest news through our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter pages, all at TBConline. The second Russia-Africa Economic and Humanitarian Summit has come to an end in St. Petersburg in Russia. The President of Russia and the Chairman of the African Union, Azali Assoumani, who is also the President of the Comoros, have shown deep satisfaction in the diverse agreements the African countries have entered, including agreements on energy sector, food security, climate change, and bilateral trade, among others. During his closing address, President Putin says the second Russia-Africa Summit was held in a constructive and healthy atmosphere, and that the representatives from Africa have shown a political will to further strengthen the bilateral cooperation. President Putin has also written off $23 billion of African debts during the plenary session of the Africa-Russia Summit today. On the other hand, the President of the Comoros, who is also the Chairman of the African Union, Azali Assoumani, says Russia and African countries have had long-standing relations for decades, dating back from the colonial and apartheid period, and he continued to express how the two parties have to move forward to foster development. The United States Agency for International Development, USAID, through Power Africa Partnership Project, targets to increase installed generation capacity by 30,000 megawatts, while adding 60 million new household and business connections by 2030. The project is expected to help provide reliable electricity to homes and businesses across the continent. Rehema Sebabili has more details.
Michael Jordan, the U.S. chief advisor for the project, said that the goal of Power Africa is to help Africa overcome the challenge of electrical energy and bring economic change to its people.
To date, Power Africa works with 170 private sector partners, to address these energy challenges. And we've added, through 147 private sector transactions, we've added over 14,000 gigawatts of power to the national grid, to the grids in Africa. And so that, to get a sense of proportion, 1 gigawatt in the United States would power about 750,000 homes.
He added that Power Africa is also working with other partners like World Bank, the African Development Bank, and the European Union to facilitate access of electricity in Africa.
And so we are working with partners such as the African Development Bank, the World Bank, European countries like the UK, France, Norway, Sweden, and even Japan and Korea, hand in hand to support African governments to implement their energy agendas.
On the other hand, USAID's Deputy Assistant Administrator in the Bureau for Africa, Jangiwani Davis, said that the project is a part of a broader U.S. commitment, while the Deputy Assistant to the Administrator for USAID's Bureau for Resilience and Food Security, Nancy Eslick, noted that the United States has invested approximately $250 million in sub-Saharan countries and $500 million worldwide to ensure access to clean and safe water around the world.
So we work on both humanitarian assistance as well as development assistance. while we invest in peace, resilience, and food security, which my colleague will talk about in the immediate and long term. Second, we help countries withstand the effects of already changing climate.
Each one of these plans will serve as a roadmap in a country and how we're going to achieve mutually determined goals, working with stakeholders to determine what's most important for them in water and sanitation.
The Power Africa project has already had some success in Tanzania, where it has enabled access to 671 megawatts of electricity. This has benefited regions such as Kigoma, where some villages have been able to access electricity services for the first time. The Power Africa partnership is a significant initiative that could have a major impact on the lives of millions of people in Africa. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Rehema Sebabili, TBC News.
Thank you very much, Rehema Sebabili from Washington, D.C. Youths who have participated in the just-ended Africa Human Capital Heads of State Summit held in Dar es Salaam urge young people in Africa to utilize the job opportunities in their countries and avoid inconveniences that may endanger their lives while searching for jobs without official documents in other countries. Lulua Muhammad has more details.
According to the United Nations, in 2010, 70% of Africa's population was under the age of 30, presenting great potential for Africa's development. Speaking to TBC News, some youth from different countries in Africa who have attended the just-ended Africa Human Capital Heads of State Summit urged their fellow young people not to move out of Africa illegally, but instead to utilize the opportunities available in their countries.
There's a lot of issues with Africans, especially in West Africa, leaving the continent, going looking for greener pastures. And what needs to happen is that our government needs to come together in the continents and say, let's make this environment an enabling environment for young people. They are the future of this continent. They are the resource of this continent. So we need to make sure that they feel comfortable and safe and empowered to remain here and give of themselves and contribute back to the continent to make it what we want it to be.
The youth can engage in skillful work, like vocational work, for instance, electrician, hairdressing, anything that they can use their hands to do so that they can earn something to take care of their family back home.
I cannot say that do not go outside. You can go, but think of investing back into your communities because I am sure by going outside you will gain exposure and be able to identify gaps in your communities back home. So don't just be passive, but be active and do something about it. Invest, start a business, or maybe even come back and be a professional.
Furthermore, they advise the African governments to include relevant technical knowledge in schools for young people to be able to employ themselves.
We have a lot of young people coming out of universities in Africa, and they don't really have a lot of employment skills. So the government and the stakeholders, private sector, civil society, we need to come together. We need to work collaboratively to make sure that we're building the capacity of the young people, starting from foundational level as they go through secondary school and as they go through tertiary institutions, so that when they come into the labor force and labor market, they're well equipped to be excellent workers.
I think the government should create avenues for employment opportunities so that they will desist from entering into other bad situations outside Africa. For instance, when you come to Nigeria, Ghana, most of the youth would want to go to Canada, the UK, or any country in Europe to seek for greener pastures, you understand. So if the government is able to create employment opportunities in the country, they would, with decent salaries.
By having this summit, it means that our leaders, African heads of state, are willing to, they see the problem and they are willing to remedy the problem. So by investing in human capital from this summit, I expect that our leaders will go back and implement whatever they will have discussed here so as to improve human capital by investing in education, investing in health, and things like investing in education will They work to stop things like brain drain, whereby our professionals are leaving the continent to go and seek better lives outside.
The Africa Human Capital Heads of State Summit was held in Dar es Salaam for 2 days and attended by 6 presidents from Madagascar, Sao Tome and Principe, Mozambique, Sierra Leone, Kenya and Malawi. Lulua Muhammad, TBC News, Dar es Salaam.
Great recommendations there from the young people from Africa, who are also the part of the just ended Human Capital Summit held here in Dar es Salaam. Remaining in Dar es Salaam, the Minister of Finance, Dr. Mwigulu Nchemba, directs Tanzania National Roads Agency, TANROADS, to complete the process of acquiring a contractor for the construction of a modern Jangiwani bridge, which is part of the development of the Msimbazi River Basin. Here are more details.
Dr. Nchemba made the directive while leading a government and World Bank delegation to visit the Jangiwani area where the Msimbazi River Basin Development Project is expected to be implemented, including the construction of a modern Jangiwani bridge at a cost of more than $350 million, funds that are expected to be given as soft loans from the World Bank. He insists that the President, Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, has instructed the sector ministers to hold a meeting with the World Bank to fasten the project and improve the floods-prone area. Deputy Minister in the President's Office, regional administrations and local government authorities who are expected to oversee the implementation of the project vows to oversee the project effectively and ensure the value for money. The World Bank resident representative, Nathan Belete, says his bank will provide soft loan of $350 million to finance the project as part of the bank's contribution to the city planning development in the country.
President representative of the World Health Organization, WHO, in the country, Dr. Charles Sagoe Moses, commends Tanzanian government for making major reforms in the health sector, as well as providing cooperation to the international organizations, especially the World Health Organization. Here are more details with Lulua Muhammad.
The World Health Organization, WHO, resident representative Dr. Charles Sagoe Moses was presenting his credentials to the Minister of Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation, Dr. Tax, in Dar es Salaam. Dr. Sagoe adds that the measures taken by the Tanzanian government when dealing with various diseases and outbreaks are satisfactory, and he gives an example of how Tanzania fought Marburg virus in the Kagera region. And the Minister of Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation, Dr. Tax, assures him that Tanzanian government will cooperate with him during his tenure of service in the country. Tanzania has been collaborating with WHO and other local and foreign stakeholders to ensure that it improves the health systems in the country to enable healthcare practitioners to deal with diseases.
Following the warning given by the Tanzania Meteorological Authority about the presence of El Niño rains in some regions in the country, farmers have been advised to grow crops that will cope with the condition to ensure food sufficiency. Here is a report prepared by Monica Liampawe and read by Apasia Ringo.
While the warning is being issued in the country, the United States African Development Foundation, USADF, in collaboration with ADC Tanzania, have brought together the farmers from 4 cooperatives from the regions of Kilimanjaro, Mbeya, Songwe, and Rukwa. The goal is to discuss and share best methods to face various challenges and to be provided with financial management skills to improve their lives. While on a visit to learn the best agricultural practices from some of the farmers of Sokoine University Graduate Entrepreneurs Cooperative, SUGECO, here the farmers explained what they have learned from the training.
It is important for farmers in general, and I advise them to find a starting point, because if we do not learn these new methods, farmers will be in a bad situation.
Here, advice on how to deal with effects of climate change in farming was given.
Let's get ready to collect water. Here we have seen a pond where we can do rainwater harvesting, and it is big enough to produce many crops. The question to ask ourselves is, how are we prepared for the El Niño rains that are expected to fall in October, and how have we prepared the water environment For our use, let's start thinking about what crops we can plant during El Nino.
The program manager of USAIDF and ADC Tanzania, Aileen Mwakisese, elaborates more on what is expected after bringing the farmers together.
The purpose is to solve various challenges that farmers face, especially in the aspect of climate change. Due to these problems, we have focused on looking at what methods they can use to avoid them.
The Tanzania Bureau of Standards, TBS, has been awarded as the best Bureau of Standards in Africa for the year 2023. Speaking after receiving the award, the Minister of Industry and Trade, Dr. Shantu Kijaji, says the award is of great value to the industrial and commercial sectors in the country, and it motivates the production of quality Tanzanian products for the African market through the African Continental Free Trade Area program.
Tuzo hii itakuwa ni motisha tosha.
This award will be sufficient motivation and attraction for our products in the African market and in the world in general. As you know now that we are implementing the protocol we signed and the establishment of the market with a free trade zone in Africa, you cannot go to that market if your products are not trusted. This award shows that our products are trusted in Africa. Our producers, let's continue and believe in using TBS for our products so that they enter the market without any doubts.
Wetu sasa tuendelee kuiamini na kukitumia chombo chetu hiki TBS.
Chairman of the Board of Directors of TBS, Professor Othman Chande, says the award process was free and fair, and Tanzania should be proud of the award.
Business Leaders Award.
These African Business Leaders Awards, which are organized by the African Leadership Magazine Institute, involve the various groups from different countries in Africa, including Kenya, Uganda, South Africa, Mauritius, Morocco, Madagascar, Ghana, South Sudan, and Senegal.
Congratulations there to TBS. The Regional Commissioner of the Coast Region, Bakari Kunenge, urges the farmers in the region to show up in large numbers during the annual Farmers Fair Naninane that will be held in the Morogoro region to learn new best farming methods and increase productivity of the agricultural products, fishing and livestock sectors included. Kunenge made the call in Kibaha when he met and held talks with journalists to outline final stages of the preparations for the fair, insisting farmers from the coast region, Tanga, Morogoro and Dar es Salaam will have an opportunity to meet with agricultural experts from various institutions to learn best and modern farming methods.
They will have the opportunity to see various technologies and modern methods in agriculture, breeding and fishing, and that is the main objective of this exhibition. We in the Eastern region are setting ourselves the goal that what is seen in Naninane exhibition must reflect the real situation of the people in our areas.
The Naninane Fair will be officially opened in August 1st by the former Prime Minister Mizengo Pinda in Morogoro, where more than 508 institutions have already confirmed to participate in the fair. Now, before we wind up our local news tonight, let us now take a look at today's exchange rates according to the Bank of Tanzania, BOT. Don't miss TBC News every weekday to know all the latest in exchange rates. Time now for all the latest in international news. And here is international news as compiled by Ramadan Mpenda and read by Apasia Ringo.
The head of Niger's Presidential Guard, General Abdurrahman Chiani, has named himself head of a transitional government in the West African country 2 days after his unit overthrew democratically elected President Mohamed Bazoum. General Abdurrahman Chiani made the announcement on Friday on state-run television, saying he was the president of the National Council for the Safeguard of the Homeland. The 62-year-old general also said the intervention had been necessary to avoid the gradual and inevitable downfall of the country. The general reportedly led the resistance to a frustrated coup attempt in March 2021 when a military unit tried to seize the presidential palace days before Bazoum, who had just been elected, was due to be sworn in. The coup has been roundly condemned by international actors including the African Union, West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS, the EU, and the UN. Singapore has hanged a 45-year-old citizen, Saridewi Jamani, who was caught with 31 grams of heroin, the first time the city-state has executed a woman in nearly 20 years. The Central Narcotics Bureau in Singapore said Saridewi Jamani was hanged on Friday after being convicted of trafficking not less than 30.72 grams of the drug in 2018. Saridewi is the first woman to be hanged in Singapore since hairdresser Yan Mei Wan, 36 years old, in 2004, also convicted of drug trafficking. Under the law in Singapore, anyone caught trafficking, importing or exporting certain quantities of illegal drugs like methamphetamine, heroin, cocaine or cannabis products receives the mandatory death sentence. Singapore has now hanged 15 people, including foreigners and an intellectually disabled man, since resuming executions for drug convictions last year. And the former U.S. President, Donald Trump, is facing new criminal charges after United States prosecutors accused him for ordering employees to delete security camera footage at his estate in order to hinder an investigation into the mishandling of classified documents. U.S. federal prosecutors announced 3 new charges against Trump, including obstruction and willful retention of national defense information, bringing the total number of counts against the Republican in the case to 40. Prosecutors also charged Carlos de Oliveira, a 56-year-old maintenance worker at Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort, with conspiracy to obstruct justice, lie to investigators, and destroying documents. De Oliveira is the second Trump's employee to face federal criminal charges alongside the former president.
That was international news. Sports news is up next. And in sports news, the Tanzania international boxer Emmanuel Shija and Yusuf Fundi say they are ready for the WBC championship fight on Muay style, which is taking place in Tanzania for the first time in the history of the boxing game. Speaking in Dar es Salaam, the boxers claim that they have trained hard, ready to lift the title, as the organizers of the bout say the preparations for the match are almost done.
It's going to be one of the best entertainment show because it's the first time in history 2 Mortal Kombats in one ring. So this is going to be one of the biggest events. We have seen all the boxers are ready, well prepared. What you only need to see is the fight. But it's going to be one of the entertainment show because in the beginning we'll be having some more entertainment with the different small or local boxers that will show their talent. So it's going to be a big one.
My opponent is speaking too much, but I will show him in the ring how capable I am. I want to show him that this is not kickboxing, but rather is Muay Thai. So I ask boxing fans to show up in numbers to see the big show.
I am well prepared, and also my coaching is well prepared for the fight. My opponent has entered in a wrong place. I am confident that I will defeat him.
Before the main card fight, there will be other 15 boxing fights. The Director General of the National Museum, Dr. Noel Luoga, say they plan to host Millennium Marathon to celebrate Nyerere Day. Speaking to TBC News in Dar es Salaam, Dr. Luoga adds that the race is to honor legacy left by the father of the nation, Julius Kambarage Nyerere, as well as to develop sports in the country.
Mbio hizi zinalenga kukusanya fedha na vifaa.
This race intends to get money and equipment in order to prepare special exhibition, particularly for the special people who are not able to see, to use sound and dump point in Mwalimu Nyerere's museum in Butiama. So this year we expect through this marathon there will be special exhibition that will help those people to learn more about Mwalimu Nyerere.
Kujifunza na ku-experience historia na urithi wa baba wa taifa.
5,000 runners are expected to participate in the Millennium Marathon, which will take place on September 30th in Butiama, Mara region. And that is sports news. Now, before we conclude the news bulletin for tonight, let's take a look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours.
Welcome for the next 24 hours weather forecast from Tanzania Meteorological Authority. My name is Teresa Ngasa. By starting with the atmospheric systems, we have landfall signals over a few areas of a northeastern highland and few areas of a northern coast. Also, wind is expected to flow at the speed of 20 km per hour from southeast over northern coast. Also is expected to flow at the speed of 30 km per hour from southeast over southern coast and Lake Victoria. Also, for tonight, we expect that the minimum temperature is expected to be 4 degrees Celsius over Mbeya region, and most parts of the country are expected to feature partly cloudy condition for tonight. For tomorrow, it is expectation that areas of Arusha, Kilimanjaro, Tanga, Pemba and Unguja, Isos, Dar es Salaam and Pwani region are expected to feature partly cloudy condition, right rain showers over few area. The remaining part of the country for tomorrow is expected to feature partly cloudy condition. And now let's take a look on the 4 days weather forecast.